Have we spoken before?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. So my name is Nino Chavez. I've worked as a lawyer for quite some time. But prior to the economy collapse, I had a legislation named after me after I ousted a couple judges. Oh, perfect. Archie, do you know where the Legion Square Heights is?
Not right off the top of my head, sir. I'd have to look it up.
It's a building next to Legion Square. It's
Okay.
a new building that was erected a couple days ago. You'll find a set of stairs on the northern and southern segment. You can make your way to the top.
I will be there as soon as possible, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Let's see you shortly.
Talk to you soon. So
are you a current bar certified lawyer?
I am currently bar certified. Yep.
Okay.
And
your associate?
This is one of my paralegals. The other one's actually on his way right now.
Okay.
So I just got done wasting my time with Slacks. Nice guy.
Okay.
However, apparently he has no power to make any changes. So if I sound exasperated, it's because I just wasted my breath.
Okay.
So the topic here is FOIAs.
Okay.
And to kind of provide a bit of a preamble, I am of the current position that existing senior defense attorneys, the past and current head of bar, and to a lesser degree the police department, have failed the citizens of Los Santos by not legislating the right to FOIA into legislation. From my perspective, from my very first client and being refused by dispatch to give me an immediate FOIA for a victim statement that was produced right then and there, and instead was told, I need to wait 5 days. It resulted in me learning that none of it is legislated, and it's simply based on a drunken statement by Molton, and I'm assuming the best because I don't know how closely you read it. Grammatical errors, all kinds of things. It's actually pretty ridiculous. And that being sort of the end of the conversation has kind of twisted my brain up a bit, because without that, we can't really function.
A question before we continue. How did you acquire a copy of the Molton process?
It's available.
Where is it available?
In the reports, lawyers.
In the lawyers' reports? One was posted there in the lawyers section?
I got one from Bailey.
I don't know who Bailey is.
The justice?
Oh, okay. So he gave you a copy. That must be part of the lawyers.
Hold on.
I don't know.
Let me look at the top of this. It's called DOJ documents. Yeah. So it's available.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
FOIA and Molton process.
Okay. So that is not available to the public. That is not available to PD. That is only available to DOJ.
No
and
shot.
Lawyers.
Oh my God. See, I'm already glad we're having this conversation.
We, as police, we do not have access to DOJ documents.
Okay. So that's why you have your own SOP document.
And that is why we have our own, and this was extremely long time ago when back in the first iteration of leaders, of the captains that were appointed. This was so very, very long ago that I believe they were informed of the of our requirement, the PD's requirement of the DOJ Molton process.
Oh boy. You
Does
ready
that make
for
sense?
It does. And
Okay.
you ready for this?
Okay.
Our documents are not in line with your SOPs. So in other words,
that could be very possible. I mean, things can be lost in translation.
Yeah.
This announcement that was given months and months ago was obviously given to a captain to then, give out to the whole PD.
Okay. So, now transparently, I am going to be petitioning for legislation around this. To protect citizens of Los Santos. And because, quite frankly, without it being legislated, you, as an officer, right now, you specifically, if you're working a case and you so decided to not give someone a report because you didn't feel like it, or whatever the reason may be, you can do that. And then our clients, citizens, have zero recourse. So I'm gonna paint like an imaginary, right? Because these things are possible, right? Alex over here, you arrest him for the belief that he might have shot somebody, and because you think Alex is a dick, every time he tries to contact you to get a FOIA, you decide to completely stonewall him. Alex no longer has a recourse to actually figure out what led to this happening, what evidence you have, etc., etc. Neither does his lawyer. The only recourse being he would have to actually bring it to court before even getting this information, which, quite frankly, would be a waste of y'all's time and a waste of our time, when it could just turn out that Alex is actually a psycho, and when we look at it, everything's written there very plainly, and thus circumventing all those steps.
I understand.
Yep.
Oh, hello?
Hi there. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep, no worries. I'm going to fill you on some of this, so for now, just kind of take notes, all right?
Yes, sir.
So, in essence, if you're saying that under the current process that we have been instructed by the DOJ those many months ago, because it's not in legislation, if we decided to be absolutely horrible, we could hold on and push that, not give out a FOIA for 30 days.
Correct.
Interesting.
Or ever.
Right. However, we have tried our best to hold extremely fast to the guidelines we were given at the time of DOJ. Dispatch are, even though they are quote unquote employed by PD, are not obligated to give a FOIA. If the FOIA is over the 5 days and the officer's statements are in there, then yes, they can.
Yep.
But they have certain obligations as well that we have given to them. So interesting. I believe, yes, it should be in legislation. There should be a lot of things in legislations, Mr. Chavez.
Absolutely agreed. Which is probably why you're going to start seeing a lot of movement in the next couple days. And that kind of brings me to the next thing. And this is, I've been calling it a parlay. I'm going to be rather transparent, if you don't mind. I have been rather so annoyed with my colleagues and the collective of the city council and the lack of good, important legislation being passed, and to a lesser degree, the police department bringing these things up, that I'm going to find a way to make that movement start to transpire, whether that means disbarment of the current head of bar, if he does not begin assisting lawyers, upcoming lawyers, etc., citizens, whatnot, with our basic needs. I'm also going to ask that members of high command such as yourself, discuss until that legislation is put in place, that a interim, let's say, agreement is made. And this is what I am sort of spitballing, but I'm amendable to this, is upon arrest of a suspect, officers have 48 hours to submit the report, after which the lawyer or the civilian whom the charges are pressed on, or the victims of said thing, can have a report created. That warrants that are active can be immediately FOIA'd. There's a third thing. Alex, do you remember what the third one was? Oh, right. And then 5 days in the event it is something. Did we say five? What was the third thing? You remember, Alex?
I do not recall.
Okay. What I'm asking for is a bit of a stricter set of guidelines around these things. The argument that I produced is as follows. I'm of the belief that the moment a suspect is charged with crimes, sent to Bolingbroke, etc., 48 hours should be more than sufficient. My argument is as follows, is that the moment that individual has been charged and sent up, all the probable cause should be available. If it requires statements made 2 days later to be entered in, then was there probable cause to begin with? Secondly, if an officer's on the scene, etc., and they can't complete it in 48 hours, then this statement probably shouldn't be used in the first place. And given, things happen, I think 48 hours is sufficient. 5 days enters into a realm which, have you ever heard of the notion that witness testimony tends to be questionable at best?
I understand where you're going with this. However, there are two things right here that would be impacted. Okay. Number one would be the current instructions that we still have in regard to the Molton process, which were given to us by the DOJ at that time. The second set would be our current standard operating procedures. And that is something I cannot change overnight. That is a discussion with High Command.
Absolutely.
We already have outlined for our officers when a certain statement needs to be in for a certain type of plea. So that would have to be something that I would have to discuss with them.
Absolutely, and I understand that those conversations can take some time. My recommendation, as similar to the recommendation that I'll be pushing to the City Council, is going to be the categorization of these things rather than a blanket FOIA, because an arrest versus an arrest that's been processed, a warrant that has been issued, a warrant of which the probable cause needs to be there given that it can be bench reviewed, an active investigation, all these different categories should have different time bands to it, and that the least common denominator should not be used as the overarching thing, because while it may be making it easier for the department as a whole, understandably gives more time to get these things done, it prevents swift due process, the right to a speedy trial, all these sort of things that I think the civilians truly want. As of right now, for example, according to this Molton process, we are unable to get a FOIA on an active warrant, which is unreasonable given the wording that is in the Constitution, which infers that we can go and get a bench warrant review. But how do you do that without a FOIA? But this Molton review is unconstitutional because it says investigation and warrant is the only that only non-investigation and non-warrant documentation can be FOIA'd. So, like, what?
Right.
Um,
So I feel like you've got two avenues. Right now, until instructions are given to us by the DOJ of any changes, I'm more than happy to open a discussion with High Command in regard to our own SOPs. However, unless changes come from the DOJ, we don't have to, like you said before, we don't have to abide, but we do.
So the having spoken to Billy, and I spoke to him 3 days ago and about an hour and a half ago, this Molton process has not come from the DOJ. Rather, this is a recommendation per Lance Molton, which then coincided with the SOPs. The DOJ doesn't have any say on this, unless we're both mistaken.
So that, as far as I know, the SOPs regarding police policies and report policies were created before the Molton process. The Molton process was
Interesting.
handed to us afterwards, and we have abided by those guidelines that we believed were given to us by the Department of Justice. As I said, your information comes from the DOJ documents. Ours comes in the form of an announcement that was given to a captain to give to the PD.
Oh my God. I see. You may have said this and I might have lost it in conversation. That makes it even more. But they're both called Molton. Okay. So what I'm thinking here is we got to figure out what the fuck happened first. Because if I were to...
Do you have a date on yours? Can you have a look and look at the date? I mean, it'd be very simple to find out.
Unfortunately, it says 4 months ago. So...
get out your tablet. Or do you have it on tablet form?
I don't at the moment.
If you can find it at the very top where it says 4 months, just put your finger on that and tap it. It'll give you the correct date and time it was released.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
Let me see. It looks like Judge Bailey might be asleep. I'm going to speculate just a little bit, just to kind of, hold the conversation a bit. I'm going to speculate a little bit that given that they both say Molton on it, I'm thinking that this may have been a conversation in the city council, let's say 4 months ago, and that the information came through 2 separate channels. And maybe that's where that divergence happened. And some of that divergence may also have something to do with, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the window of time that offices have changed, and that was reflected on one document, but not the other.
That I would not know. That's the thing.
Okay.
As I said, our officers, we have report policy guidelines that we abide to. In regard to FOIA, as I said, they adjust the instructions given to us by DOJ.
Jesus. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to follow up with this because I think without an answer to that, for all we know, maybe it is coming down from, like, some supreme entity or something. Because Bailey's telling me that it's a consul. As far as you all know, it's the DOJ. And without knowing who the arbiter of this is, it gets a little difficult. Regardless, we're going to keep pushing this legislative thing. if you could speak with high command, especially in regards to these warrants, and there being a potential for a interim solution for our clients, that'd be extremely helpful.
So in regard to warrants, what are you proposing? I mean, for me personally, I have multiple lawyers that call me and say my client has a warrant. Can we discuss it? I'm more than happy to discuss it.
Really? You'd be the
especially
first.
if no, I've done it before. I've had quite a few people turn themselves in. Because in the end, it's working out what is best for the person, and hopefully, getting them to a place where they do their time, they're fine, and they're rehabilitated. So I've done it before. I'm happy to do it again.
So I've gotten the absolute opposite response for the past 5 hours.
Okay.
So,
what has been said?
So I think my day started today with a conversation with Alex Suarez, in which I have attempted to get the information regarding his charges, so that we could bring it to bench review. That's what ended up stemming.
100%. I've done it 1,000 times. Gone to bench review.
I was told that I cannot get that information. First by dispatch, who wasn't sure, not their fault. And then from another officer, then Slacks. I also tried to get the information for Wendell Santana. Same problem. So that's kind of why I dove real deep. And in between this was a conversation with Judge Bailey, the concerns I had, the unconstitutionality of it, because the way that I read the Constitution, specifically under the bench trial segment, I strongly believe that a reasonable reading of the segment that says if the bench trial stems from a warrant, the defendant may request a bench trial, yada yada, as a implicit inference that that individual and their lawyer will have access to the report, since inherently without that, this process cannot reasonably begin, unless literally it's just, hey, there's a warrant, a random judge, can you review this? Which that I don't think is reasonable. So I haven't been able to get FOIAs for either of those things. And I think that the stopping point is the line in here that says any report not labeled investigation or warrant is open to be FOIA'd at this time. So I think both this DOJ document and this SOP process document both have wordage in there that is inherently unconstitutional and blocks any forward movement with a warrant. And it's being used by other officers, unbeknownst to them. They're just following what they're reading. Is blocking them from producing these to us.
Okay, so in the past, the way that I've instructed officers is that we are. I'm more than happy to tell a suspect if they have a lawyer who is representing them. Sorry, just one moment. This is Ruby. Can I help? I'm currently with Mr. Chavez on Legion Heights.
Oh, there goes another one.
Oh, yes. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Sorry about that, folks.
Yep. You hear that screaming?
I do not.
Oh. Yeah, I think someone fell off.
Oh. Okay, we're still all here.
Yeah, we're good.
Good Lord. So, in regard to warrants, if a lawyer comes to me with a warrant for their client, I'm more than happy to say roughly how long is it for. I can give a date of when it happened. I don't usually say the charges. If the person is innocent, of course, and they believe that nothing happened on that date, they turn themselves in and, we're able to work it all out. But I usually defer to the fact that if you want the warrant looked at, then we go to a judge.
I'm sorry. Could you say that one more time to me?
If say you came to me with your client and you said my client has a warrant, I don't usually discuss what happened. I usually at least let them know what date it came from. A lot of people, it's, that wasn't me. I wasn't available at that time. I was flying out of the city, all sorts of things like that. And usually I try to defer them to get a warrant review by some. Oh, are you all right?
Yeah.
Good, sir.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, it's just the ridiculousness of it. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh. Yeah, usually they're really now and then people have turned themselves in.
Wait, so are you holding the position that the police department should not be producing a FOIA on a warrant?
At the moment, that is not what we have been instructed to do.
Okay, all right. Okay, it comes back to the instruction. What is your... Let's ignore the instruction bit for a minute, right? What is... Because I do want your input, right? Because ultimately, when we stop pushing this stuff heavily, I want it to make sense for all parties, right? If I go in with some wild, very, like, defense lawyer angle, we're gonna get caught up in this whole... What is your thoughts on this? Do you think it's reasonable for us to be getting a FOIA? Is there any reason that you see why we shouldn't?
Okay. Yes. This is my personal opinion. This is not the opinion of the PD.
Of course. I'm not recording
yes.
this, I swear.
I believe that there is not a direct correlation between the timings. So, for example, you are, a warrant is put out for your arrest. Right now, in our city, a warrant lasts for 4 days. A FOIA cannot be released for 5 days. So that probably would be something that we should look at it's something the DOJ should look at. Because if they don't want the FOIA released for 5 days and a warrant lasts for 4, and we can ask for extensions on violent crimes, it doesn't correlate. So we've got one set of instructions and yet another, automatic timeline that is set when a warrant is approved.
Wait, does yours say, like, that you have to wait? Because ours says up to.
1 moment.
Did you need any food, Mr. Travis?
Yes, if you don't mind.
There you are.
Because I'm assuming these are like guidelines, like this is a recommendation, right? Versus a requirement. And in the same vein of like, if I came in and said, these things happened to me, I'm creating a victim statement, you create an incident, I ask for a copy of that incident, waiting 5 days doesn't,
okay. Do you have yours available there? I would just like to see if we have the same information in
Yep.
regard to a warrant.
So I've got a copy of both. Y'all's is 3 times as long as ours.
How do you have a copy of ours? Because I'm ready to fire someone. How do you have a copy of an internal announcement that cannot be FOIA'd?
From a judge.
From a judge?
Yeah. Unless there's a third document. What is your title say?
Molton FOIA process.
Is it FOIA and Molton process?
No, Molton FOIA process.
Okay, so there's 3 documents.
The instructions that were given to us, we are not allowed to release a FOIA on a current warrant.
Oh my God. Okay. Jesus Christ. But going back, what's your personal opinion though? Because that matters. You've seen how, things operate on your end.
I mean, shall I just be quite frank?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very rare that someone turns themselves in for a warrant. All it says is, if I find out what my warrant is for, I'm just going to hide a few more days and then we're good to go.
I think so. I had Officer Slacks give me an example of a game. Give me an example of a game, whichever one.
I mean, we can talk about. We'll just talk about a basic robbery of a financial institution.
Okay, so
individual identified on scene, vehicle, person driving, no mask, positive ID. They call and they say, "What's my warrant for?" Or maybe procedures are changed and they can go to City Hall and see what their warrant is for. And they go, okay, this happened on this date. Warrants only last for this long. I'm good.
So, and I'm with you on that. If they are a habitual cop killer, bank robber, etc., they're going to escape from you regardless because they probably got guns on, right? Absolutely
Highly
reasonable.
possible.
And so I totally get your position. But does that least common denominator example, should that be blanketed for the rest of the civilians? I'm going to give you a counter example of what I'm dealing with right now. I have a civilian, an individual that has, and I can promise you he's a civilian. This guy's been working night and day civilian jobs. He has reported each and every one of his firearms being stolen. He has a history of being robbed with and without firearms. One of his guns was not properly documented by the police department. Now, I'm going to take his word for it, right? It's my client. He could have lied to me. I'm telling you, he didn't lie to me, right? The onus is actually on him, unfortunately, due to the wording of the law. Another thing we're going to be tackling, that he needs to actually produce and have a receipt of it. In other words, he would have to come to the police department, say, my gun was stolen in these circumstances, get a report number. In fact, actually, funny enough, the guy who was just here just had his gun stolen too at the VU. Apparently, it's like a financial crime place or some shit.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what the cop told him. He did the right thing and got a report number back. A lot of people aren't going to do that, and the clerks aren't telling them when they give the weapons license. But even that report isn't enough, because even if he got the report, did the officer go and finish the report properly? He's got to go now and FOIA 5 days later and make sure, due diligence was done at Mission Row. And if he doesn't, he's open to getting negligent firearm charges. That's what happened to my client. This guy has been robbed multiple times for the past multiple months doing sanitation. He gets robbed. He reports it to the cops, and he hasn't been collecting the report numbers. So now all of a sudden he's got this crazy warrant saying he's responsible for the murder of multiple officers. He goes and tries to get the reports back, like for each and every gun that he reported. Some are reports, some are incidents, some don't even have his name properly in there. He's been robbed so many times that apparently when they search for his name, it's mostly him getting robbed of material. But because something's like hidden in this like query, he's screwed. And now he's about to become a felon. And he can't run away because the officer that filed it, give me a sec, his name is Riker. His name is Riker. He told them that the warrant is indefinite. And to make matters worse, he went and conflicted Judge Bailey.
Okay.
So I totally get the, these like serial psychos, right? And evading things. But what about the actual civilian? Those are the majority of my clients are not like, Chang Gang and Lean Boys if they're still around, or Clean Boys, or like, I don't know what else is around nowadays. There's none of these like, let's rob a bank every 2 hours motherfuckers that probably bounce every minute. It's I'm talking about actual victims.
So help me out here, Mr. Chavez. How much does it cost to purchase a gun?
Gentlemen?
Any ideas? Anyone here?
10,000 if you're going just gun purchase,
Okay.
not including
And,
license and etc.
Yeah, so it can be quite pricey, correct? Including ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't you think there is partial onus upon the owner of the gun to keep report numbers? Because report numbers
I would agree with that. And that's
Right.
what's being advised, right? But
Right.
I now cannot even investigate what happened, whether the report was actually accurate. He may potentially now be facing felonious charges and going into Bolingbrook with a bunch of psychos, spending God knows how long inside, being stripped of his job with a potential of a trial date and God knows how long. While all of this could disappear through simply getting a document, looking at it and being like, oh, boom, wait a minute. My client, we've got this in, oh, we know, blah, blah, blah. This is impossible. Now the warrant's gone, right? Through conversation. We can't even have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We got to actually bring it to appeal. My second counter argument to this, and this is something my team here and the other lawyers we're bringing on board, is now you've been very respectable. I got to say that, Ruby. My experience has not been the same with other officers, let alone that dispatch, Jalen or something like that. She was, I couldn't. It was shocking. The way she was speaking to the victim. But shit. Right. That even those individuals that are like running away from these warrants, you gotta ask yourself, are they also running away knowing that they have no way to really fight it? And that even though that these warrants or these charges they might be getting, it's taking 5 days to get a FOIA. There is an alternative, just as there's guidelines that y'all have, right? And let's say you aren't bound by the DOJ and you find that you can give them to us sooner. We as lawyers also have an approach, which is we can appeal these things thus closing that window from 5 days down to much less. And I don't think mass appealing these is a good solution. Not for us and not for y'all.
I think you have chosen an interesting road to go down. And I think your first step, of course, is going to have to be with the DOJ, with Murphy Braun. And from there, if you don't get the answers that you need, of course, you're going to have to go even higher to the Chief Justice.
That's assuming they're in charge of it, right? We're still unknown.
Why would they not be?
Well, because, well, going back, I've been told it's a city council and that it's a guideline. And it sounds like y'all are getting information that it's the DOJ.
Well, you just said to me it was in DOJ documents, so therefore it comes from DOJ.
No, I'm sorry. The one that we have is in DOJ documents, but it has been communicated to me from Judge Bailey that it's a council decision and it's a guideline.
Why on earth? No. Since when is it a council decision on the Department of Justice? That makes zero sense.
That's where my confusion is after speaking with you, because I'm hearing something completely different.
Why on earth would the person who represents EMS in the hospital have anything to do with the changes of the Department of Justice?
Yeah, but it's legislation.
Why?
It's stemming from legislation, no?
Where is the legislation?
Wait, I'm sorry. Did I miss something? Why
is
would
the Molton process
why would the Molton process
legislation
be produced by the city council?
Correct. It may be something that at the time the head of bar brought forward and said this is what we're going to go with, but I don't believe the city council. That doesn't make sense.
I
in
don't
my
know.
mind.
I don't know. I could see
Why
it both
would
ways.
a city yeah.
I think we just I don't know. Like I said, I'm getting some information. Sounds like you're getting another. I mean, it's the same way. That why is, well, in the same light, why is EMS and all these representatives supposedly in this democratic process and making legislation, why is it only 20% representation of the people? Why does EMS get 20, like, what is it? Like,
a seat at
like
the table.
15% of a vote, you know? Like, there's a lot of question marks. There's not, it's not a representative democracy, 12.5%. Might as well put the fucking toe guy on there, too. I mean, not to say that EMS and doctors don't matter, right? But
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Like, we voted for Max, appointed Shaban, and I don't know who the fuck the new guy is, the deputy. What's his name? Solomon. You know that they're who we voted in, right? So, yeah.
Solomon Walker.
Solomon Walker. I don't really know him that well. All right. Well, anyways, okay.
I see where you're going with all of this. I will need to at least let High Command know that at least a window of conversation has been opened. But I think from what I'm hearing from you and from what I have read and understood is that most of the information or changes are going to have to come from DOJ.
Yeah. And DOJ's told me via Judge Bailey that it's the city council that makes the decision. So this
That
may
is
be
not my understanding, but anyway.
I'm with it. Trust me, Ruby. I'm with you. I'm just as like, what the fuck is happening? So I'm gonna stop pulling on some strings too and try to figure out who the actual authority here is.
Well, you know, maybe the new commissioner has a much better understanding of this. Maybe he'll help you.
Yeah, maybe. I did try calling him. I don't think he's around today.
No, he'll be back on duty tomorrow, usually. Today, Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Well, shit. This is normally what you fall into these like traps very often. Like this, like, who the fuck made this? You know, where's this coming from? Type shit.
Well, Mr. Chavez, this is the first time I'm meeting you, so I'll be honest. There are some things I'm not discussing with you because I have my own questions and I don't really know you. I
we can
don't
get
know
to
a
know
lot
each
about
other.
your background.
Yeah, I'm gonna be around.
And I don't know these two individuals here, although I am happy to have conversations.
Hmm.
And I am happy to even ask questions within my own circle.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
For me, as the Assistant Chief of LSPD, the clearer the process and the guidelines that the Department of Justice want and the city want makes my job easier. They may not be the guidelines and the procedures that maybe the civilians want, and that would be up to the civilians of our city, therefore, to change who they vote for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I actually agree with that. I want to know what the hell's going on, and it's not very clear to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ruby. If you
Okay.
ever have any questions for me, you can probably see me at Merchant Row every 30 minutes.
All right. I'm usually around. I usually oversee shift 2, so I'll be around. Nice to meet you two gentlemen.
Yes, ma'am,
Please
you the
use the
same.
stairs carefully. Do not trip like the last 25 people that we've had to rescue.
Understood.
Be very careful. Have a good evening.
Yep. You as well.
All right.
You as well.
Good night, folks.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay.